Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Laura Prada from our Telesur studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with our news. You stay with us. This Tuesday in Venezuela, Vice President Elsa Rodriguez informed of a new case of infection by COVID-19, adding a total of 166 positive cases in the country.
We have to inform the country that in the last 24 hours, one new case has been detected. It's a citizen from Miranda State. She was infected by her brother who lives with her. The brother tested positive after taking the rapid test. This is a person who is asymptomatic. That brings the total number of cases to 166 confirmed cases in Venezuela.
Rodriguez also informed that Venezuelan migrants who return to the country will be guaranteed food, accommodation, and free medical assistance in the midst of the pandemic.
We have had in recent days a significant influx of Venezuelans returning home because of xenophobic attacks and discrimination, of rejection by the governments that make up the Lima cartel. We are welcoming them with very strict health. A mandatory 2 weeks quarantine is also being enforced. All returning citizens are treated and immediately tested for rapid detection of COVID-19. They are also guaranteed for free food, free accommodation, and free medical care.
Vice President Elsa Rodriguez also expressed solidarity with the World Health Organization, which has become under direct attack from the United States.
We want to express solidarity with the Director General of the World Health Organization, who is being ruthlessly attacked by the President of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump, who intends to transfer his responsibility in mismanaging the pandemic to the Director of the WHO. Since the beginning of this pandemic, this organization has given many warnings, and based on those alerts, our government developed special plans and the extraordinary measures we implement across the nation.
Meanwhile, the Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro has announced the arrival of humanitarian aid shipments from Russia, the Pan American Health Organization, and the UNICEF to help in the fight against COVID-19 in the country, and thanked for their support.
I want to announce that on Wednesday, April 8th, a special humanitarian shipment will arrive in Venezuela. Aid coming from the Pan American Health Organization, UNICEF, and the Russian Federation will support our own efforts, as they have donated medical and protective equipment, as well as ventilators and testing kits. Presidential officials and the foreign minister will receive this shipment. I want to thank the United Nations, the Pan American Health Organization, UNICEF, and also I want to especially thank Russia for the humanitarian aid that it sent to Venezuela in the times of the pandemic. Venezuela has many friends across the world. Venezuela has company. True solidarity that reaches all families.
President Maduro also announced a video conference that will be held between OPEC and OPEC Plus members to reach a consensus on fair prices and stabilize international oil prices and economy.
Through all Minister, Major General Manuel Quevedo, and also the Vice President and the Foreign Minister, I have been in contact with the governments of Russia, Saudi Arabia, and all other partners of OPEC to arrange a video conference next Tuesday, on April 9, where we will be trying to reach consensus for the revival of the global economy.
And as we were mentioning before, on Tuesday, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to put a halt on funds to the World Health Organization, accusing it of bias towards China and performing badly in the coronavirus pandemic.
We give a majority of the money that they get, and it's much more than the $58 million is a small portion of what they've gotten over the years. Sometimes they get much more than that. Sometimes it's for programs that they're doing, and it's much bigger numbers. And if the programs are good, that's great as far as we're concerned. But we want to look into it. World Health Organization because they really are, they called it wrong. They called it wrong. They missed the call. They could have called it months earlier. They would have known. And they should have known. And they probably did know. So we'll be looking into that very carefully. And we're going to put a hold on money spent to the WHO.
And U.S. immigration officials have rapidly deported nearly 400 migrant children intercepted at the U.S.-Mexico border in the past 2 weeks under new rules billed as seeking to limit the spread of the novel coronavirus in the United States. Donald Trump's administration implemented new border rules on March 21st that scrapped decades-long practices under laws meant to protect children from human trafficking and offered them a chance to seek asylum in a U.S. immigration court. Under the new rules, U.S. officials can quickly remove people without standard immigration proceedings. Overall, the U.S. border officials have expelled nearly 7,000 migrants to Mexico since the new procedures took effect. This number was first published by ProPublica, but the figure for children deported has not previously been reported. And China has ended its lockdown of Wuhan, the city where the coronavirus first appeared. After 11 weeks, authorities will allow the city of 11 million residents to once again travel in and out of Wuhan. However, residents will be required to keep using a smartphone application that monitors their health status and shows that they have not been in recent contact with anyone confirmed to have the virus. Across Wuhan, nearly 94% of businesses have been reopened, but schools remain closed for the time being. In Ecuador, a top court has convicted former President Rafael Correa on corruption charges and sentenced him to 8 years in prison. Correa was among 20 people, including his vice president, Jorge Glass, accused of accepting $8 million in bribes in exchange for public contracts between the years 2012 and 2016. The court also banned Correa from politics for 25 years. The former president left Ecuador 3 years ago, and if he were to return, he could be arrested due to his conviction, which can still be appealed. And now we have more details on this with our correspondent, Denise Herrera from Quito. Welcome, Denise.
Ecuadorian former President Rafael Correa and Vice President Jorge Glass have been declared guilty of bribery. The Ecuadorian court sentenced them for 8 years in prison. The sentence also said that they can do any political participation for 25 years. This decision came in the middle of a sanitary crisis where supporters of former President Rafael Correa are saying that the government is trying to take away the attention of what is really happening in Ecuador, where citizens from Guayaquil are still denouncing that they didn't receive any help from the authorities. They are still denouncing in videos published in social media that their relatives are dying in the streets, are dying in their homes. Meanwhile, former President Rafael Correa said in his Twitter account that this is a political persecution, and we should remember that at the beginning of this legal process, the legal defense team of former President Rafael Correa, the lawyer Fausto Jarrín, denounced that the government is trying to remove the participation of the citizen revolution movement in the coming elections.
Thank you, Denise. We keep moving on. In the Caribbean, in Barbados, they have recorded its third death with a total of 63 confirmed novel coronavirus cases as of this Tuesday.
It is with great regret at this point that I announce the death of the third patient with COVID disease. This is a 95-year-old male who presented us quite late and it had been extremely unwell up to this point. He died at the wee hours this morning at 3 a.m. And to give you a further update on our numbers, as of now in isolation, we have 53 patients at our isolation centers across the country. We expect 3 further admissions today from our cases identified last night.
In Brazil, the infection rise over 14,000 positive cases. Of Tuesday, Brazilian Health Ministry announced that the toll reached 667. State governors has addressed that President Jair Bolsonaro took delayed actions to battle the spread of the virus in the country, while they have come to take individual actions against the COVID-19, as it happens in Sao Paulo, where Governor João Doria has announced an extension of the quarantine from April 8th to April 22nd. Time for a first break. Follow us on Twitter at Toaster English and on my account at Laura P. Telesur. We'll be right back. We are back with our news. On Tuesday, hundreds of Bolivian citizens in Chile have tried to return to their country following the closure of borders between both countries as a preventive measure for the COVID-19 pandemic. The citizens were met by repression from Bolivian security forces who denied them access to their own country. According to preliminary reports, the violence left 1 wounded from each side. Bolivia and Chile have closed their land borders to avoid the crossing of people who have been infected with COVID-19.
Aprovecho esta oportunidad de pedirle.
I want to take this opportunity to ask once more that the authorities of Talabacán take action and make the responsible decision to prevent this type of clashes in the community of Horchanes. Likewise, the lack of food today affects hundreds of Bolivian citizens, since our communities' food stores are not working. We don't have the essential product. The demand overcomes our capability as municipality.
In Bolivia, also the campesino unions of the Chapare region, which forms the most solid support base of the movement towards socialism, are delivering a donation of 16 truckloads of products to the city of Cochabamba. That donation will go to help people in need amid the crisis and will include bananas, oranges, tangerine, pineapple, yuca, and other products from the Tropico. Since the start of the quarantine, families have been without the means to make living in the absence of their day-to-day work. The 16 tons of Chapare produced food will be distributed free of charge to areas including the Zona Sud and other localities which have requested assistance.
At this moment, we are already here with 16 trucks. Approximately, we have 16 tons of products between bananas, orange, tangerines, and other products of the Tropico of Cochabamba. In just a few moments, following this press conference of the 6 federations of the Tropico, we are going to be able to coordinate with the governor and other authorities of this sector in order to distribute to different places, such as the Zona Sud and some others. We also have a request from the penitentiary centers. We hope to make it to there, and we will have a coordination with the government, among the executives and mayors, to be able to make these distributions in a few minutes.
And the African continent have surpassed 10,000 cases with a total of 519 deaths. According to the Africa Centers for Disease Prevention and Control, a total of 10,075 COVID-19 cases have been reported in 52 of the continent's 54 countries. South Africa continues to be the worst hit country with 1,749 positive cases, followed by Algeria and Egypt, with 1,468 confirmed cases and 1,450 confirmed cases, respectively.
The high-level task force encourages all dwellers of FtS.
Meanwhile, the international cooperation keeps growing, China provided Ghana with medical supplies from the Asian country with 18 African countries.
The donation should not only be viewed as China's humanitarian gesture towards Ghana, but also a manifestation of 60 years of our collective efforts to broaden and consolidate our bilateral relations. May I, on behalf of the other 17 beneficiary countries of this donation, express similar gratitude to the government of China for its kindness. We look forward to collaborating more in the fight against this pandemic. Even though China is not yet out of the woods, it has undoubtedly amassed invaluable experience in the fight against this virus since its outbreak. And we are sure that Ghana, like many other African countries, can benefit from those experiences.
Great, this international cooperation and solidarity. Time for another break. Stay tuned with us. We are back with our news. The United States continues to be the world's worst hit nation with more than 398,100 people infected and at least have died 12,800 people by COVID-19. New York and New Jersey, the hardest states hit the hardest by the pandemic more than any other. The two states together account more than the half of the virus-related death in the United States. So far, New York has 141,100 confirmed cases and 5,489 deaths, while New Jersey has 41,090 confirmed cases and 1,232 deaths. Authorities began the week by telling frightened communities to brace for one of the worst periods yet in the crisis, as the outbreak has not yet reached its peak. And also United States, as the state of Wisconsin has held its presidential primary despite a statewide stay-at-home order and concern over mass infection amid the coronavirus crisis. Governor Tony Evers tried to stop in-person voting with an order on Monday, but the state Supreme Court ruled it must go on. Thousands of poll workers said they would not work, resulting in National Guard troops being called on to fill in the gaps. In the city of Milwaukee, only 5 polling stations were open instead of the usual 180.
It just doesn't feel like it was the safest decision to do. I saw a lot of elderly voters, people who are high risk, out there today, and everyone was taking as many precautions as they could. We were 6 feet apart, but you know, we don't know what we don't know about this virus at this point in time, and it's really scary.
And Spain continues to be one of the worst affected countries by the novel coronavirus. However, the number of new cases and fatalities have appeared to be slowing down until this Tuesday. Our correspondent in Madrid, Adriana Cardoso, has the details for us. Welcome, Adriana.
Greetings from Spain. With 743 new fatalities in the last 24 hours, the positive trend in the falling number of fatalities in Spain has stopped. However, the health authorities state that this small rise can be explained by the fact that over the weekend, the data on new deaths wasn't collated by the same accuracy, which is why the figures collated between Monday and Tuesday tend to show a rise in the numbers of new fatalities. In total, 13,798 people have been killed by COVID-19 in the country, and there are more than 140,500 cases in the country. The Ministry of Health also highlights that the trend should be under 800 new fatalities per day and continue to fall, but we will have to wait to see what happens in the next couple of weeks. They have also pointed out that there are 2 other positive pieces of data that show Spain is in that downward trend, and these are the numbers of new people hospitalized in the past 24 hours, which is also falling, and the number of people already hospitalized who require admission to the ICU or intensive care units. Here in Madrid, the community of Madrid, which is the epicenter in Spain with the largest number of cases and fatalities, the government has announced that there are some hospitals which are considered to be secondary level hospitals that are going to be restored to their normal functions to again offer usual care service and not focus only on coronavirus care. But the government has also pointed out that despite this positive news,
Thank you, Adriana. That was Adriana Cardoso from Spain. And Italy's Coronavirus Emergency Commissioner Domenico Arcuri has appealed to Italians not to lower their guard and to respect the lockdown, which is now in its 5th week.
Nei prossimi giorni che ci separano dalla Pasqua, non
In the next few days that lead up to Easter, don't ever forget, even for an instant, that this invisible, strong and unknown virus has taken 16,523 lives up until yesterday. I repeat, 16,523. 16,523. That is the reason why I beg you once again to not erase this number from your memory. 16,523.
Ecco perché torno a supplicarvi nelle prossime ore, nei prossimi giorni.
Be careful with the illusions and mirages. We are not a few steps from exiting the emergency. We are not close to that hypothetical X hour that will quickly bring us back to how things were before. Nothing could be more wrong than fantasizing about an imminent moment to free us all, where each one of us, from one day to the next, goes back to their old habits.
Che ci riporterà con un battito di ciglia alla situazione di prima.
And France's COVID-19 death toll has surged past 10,000 as reported by Director General of Health.
Since March 1st, if we add the deaths that occurred in hospitals and those that occurred in medical social institutions, in particular the EPAD nursing homes, we have registered 10,328 deaths.
And healthcare workers in the Greek capital Athens have protested over lack of staff and equipment amid the coronavirus crisis. The workers' union criticized the government for only sending about 3,000 new hires when they say there is a need for 30,000 across Greek hospitals. Greece imposed lockdown measures relatively early on in the COVID-19 pandemic compared to some other European countries. But officials warned the month of April will be critical in the fight against the virus. As of Tuesday, Greece records over 1,700 cases and 18 deaths.
We are pursuing the immediate hiring of permanent staff. Thousands. We are short 30,000, and they say they'll bring 3,000. All intensive care beds must be made available by forcibly mobilizing the private sector. All necessary protection measures for healthcare workers must be taken. Not a single colleague should be fired, and 3 months of arrears should be paid to those who are owed it. In the time of crisis, primary healthcare cannot be subpar.
Like this, we come to the end of this brief. Of course, you can find this and much more other information on our website, TelesurEnglish.net. The invitation is made for you. Continue with us with Telesur, always together, connecting our global thoughts. Until next time, thank you for watching.